Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about something that is really important to me and has really changed my life, and that is Jenkum.
There's a new way for your kids to get high. They're using raw sewage.
I couldn't imagine doing something like that. Sounds pretty sick to me.
Honestly, they need to find something better to do with their life. Seriously.
Something new, something stimulating, something different.
There's a lot of people that say it's a hoax or it's not real or it's just made up or whatever. Now let's just get this out of the way first, so you can laugh it all off or whatever, You won't be laughing once you experience what I have and have your life change. But, it's human waste. It's, shit.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Jenkum podcast. I'm your host Josh Denny, the most canceled comedian on the internet, and today I am joined by my new friend, streamer, adult worker, what do you sex worker, what do you want to call it, and mystic, spiritual mystic Le0babe. How's it going?
Hello, guys. What up? It's me, your girl Le0babe. How are you? This is my very first podcast, so I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that was wild. That was when you told me that, I was like, really? Nobody has ever been like, come on my show?
Okay, well, I've had a few people who've asked me, but it just never worked out.
But they do it where they're like, hey, come on my show. And they're sending you like DM videos where they're all crazy.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's fucking do it, right? And then they would pull out last minute and like it would just never follow through. So I'm like, okay, fuck it. It'll happen when it happens, right?
Yeah, social pullouts, the only kind none of us like, right? Like people, Definitely. It's amazing. Like maybe we got to figure that out. We got to figure out how to get people to pull out more when they're banging and pull out less when you have a fucking appointment to keep.
Seriously.
The other one that drives me nuts, and I'll rant about this on every show for the rest of my life until it gets fixed, is people that don't know how to use fucking calendars at all. It's like when you are a busy person, and it's like, I don't try to say this like, I have so many things to go, but I do. It's like I've done 7 podcasts this week. And if people don't send me calendar invites, they'll like text me before the podcast and they'll go, hey man, are we still good? And I'm like, no, dude, I booked something else because it's not in my calendar.
Yeah, I felt really bad. I'm like, I remember messaging you on Twitter like half an hour before the show was supposed to start. I'm like, yeah, we're still good. Let's go. Okay. I'm like, I hope that wasn't last minute enough.
No, not at all. But just like, but the fact is you had the invite like with the address in it, all the stuff you needed to participate.
Exactly.
It's like there's times where people will be like, you're doing my podcast tonight at 9. And I'm like, dude, I don't have a link. I don't have a calendar invitation. I have nothing to fucking remind me that this is happening or to prepare me for whatever we're going to talk about.
Like, how are we supposed to do this if I don't have the shit? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Where's the professionalism? Let's go.
Especially if it's a podcast where they have like specific topics they want you prepped on. And there's nothing more frustrating when you go on and they're like, so we're going to talk about this. And you're like, I know nothing about that. Like I did one the other day where like, let's talk about the Canadian truckers. And I was like, I see it. I think it's cool, but that was the extent of my input. Right.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm hoping to God we won't have that issue with me today.
No, you're good. No, well, that's what's cool about this show is like, this is a show that intentionally doesn't have a specific format, so we can just talk shit about whatever. We'll do, we do about an hour talking about whatever, and then we do a bonus show that's it runs anywhere from like 10 minutes to 30 minutes where we ask you a bunch of literal and metaphorical shit questions, which is always my favorite with sex and adult workers because you guys have the best stories.
We do have a lot of good stories, I will admit.
So I guess as we jump in here, I guess tell everybody a little bit about you. I came across your information or your information. It sounds like a fucking weirdo. I came across your information. I discovered you a few months back, as I told you, when I was trying to find people to interview for when the Onlyfans thing went down, and they were like, we're not doing sex work anymore, which I think sent massive shockwaves through the sex work industry, and it forced a lot of women to diversify and to kind of change what they were doing. I mean, even though that's a while back and they reversed course, I mean, how did that disrupt everything you had going on at the time?
It was absolutely insane, first of all. I've been in the sex work industry since 2016. So I've been in the game for a hot minute, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't start trying to diversify until like 2018 or maybe 2020. I don't know. It kind of all blurs together, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I've already been trying to diversify for like a long time before the OnlyFans ban, but that was a huge thing in the community that fucking rattled everybody.
Well, I'm sure it's tricky too when you're trying to remember diversify, because it's like, well, what do you mean by diversify? Like just splitting up where I distribute any of my videos or all the other things you have going on, because you're kind of like a Renaissance person. You do streaming, you make content, and then you also you do a lot of cool stuff, which is that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because you have a lot of interesting shit that you're into.
Yeah.
And then in talking with you, you're interested in a lot of the same shit I am. It's like crazy paranormal alien stuff. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I've been in the sex work industry for like 6 years, like I said. But besides that, like I've been doing streaming. Like when I first started in the sex work industry, I was a cam girl, right? Mm-hmm. So I've been streaming for years, and so
which now help me understand it, because I guess my understanding of that is when you break into that, it's great because it's like you're on a platform where there's a lot of people and there's opportunity. But when some of the girls I know that started that way broke in, they were like, the fucking percentages they take are criminal.
Oh, don't even get me started. They take like a majority of your shit, basically. And
you don't own like your likeness, right? Isn't that?
It's very weird. It's very, very weird. It differs from site to site, to be honest. But yeah, like it's a tricky one. That's definitely a tricky one. It's like if you want to get on a platform, you have to know and like read through all the rules to see like what you own still and what they can do with your information, what they can do with your content. It's a whole thing. Yeah,
it's like when you sign a TV contract for a reality show or even a scripted show and you read the fine print, and if you don't get a lawyer, they're like, we own everything with your name on it for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and that's scary.
Yeah.
That's really scary.
Been there, and that's why I'm just like, dude, lawyer up. Anytime somebody has a contract for any kind of work for you, have a lot of lawyers will do free consultations, and most of the time you can find somebody who's going to skim a contract for you and tell you, if it's good or bad. Even if they'll look at it and just go, it's good or bad. And then you can make the decision of whether or not you're going to hire a lawyer to help you with it from that point beyond. But yeah, it's amazing to me how much people, and that's one of the scary things about technology and all these apps and platforms is that, people are just clicking. They're like, I just want to get to the money part. And it's like, dude, look what you're signing away.
Literally, you have to be very, very careful. Very careful.
It's like that human centipede South Park episode. Did you ever see that? Where
God.
Kyle doesn't read the Apple terms of service and then they end up sewing him into a human centipede with 2 other people.
Oh my God. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried doing that shit these days. Oh my God.
It's crazy. So the OnlyFans things happens, and then how do you react? Like, what was your first reaction to it?
I was honestly in disbelief. That was my first reaction. I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? Because it
was almost like when Playboy said they weren't going to do nudity anymore. I go, do you have any fucking idea who you are?
No, and it's the same thing. Like it blows my mind how so many platforms, they build their platform and get popular and famous off of sex workers' backs and everything. And then as soon as they're, at the level they want to be at, they're like, okay, yeah, fuck them. They're dirt, and they treat us like shit and they throw us away. Like, it's unbelievable. It's so unbelievable.
Well, Twitter does that.
Different platforms.
Yeah, Twitter kind of has done that a little bit, right? Because that was a big part of how they grew their DAUs early on. And then, they haven't shut it down, but they also really don't give it any props. How much of the daily active use is people looking at porn?
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, honestly, Twitter's like one of the very last social media platforms us as sex workers have, because we're not accepted basically anywhere. Except for kind of on Twitter. But even if you do show a little too much or you advertise a little too hard, you're shadow banned, like you're put under the radar. Nobody can see your content.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and what's wild about it too, that one of the things that drives me nuts, and when people go like, "Oh, Denny, you're a conservative now," it's like, not really, because like I might have some libertarian or right-leaning views, but where I really clashes with like the religious conservative right, and most of these people that are pounding the fucking table for free speech on the conservative side, when it comes to porn, they're like, "Oh, no, 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 no," and it's like, no, that's free speech too, man. You know what I mean? Is. Like, you can't be like, we should be able to say whatever words we want in comedy and film. And you're like, cool, what about porn? And they're like, God says no. And it's like, whoa. You know, so it's like I butt heads with both sides, with the religious right, which has been the enemy of artists and, you know, adult film stars or sex workers forever. And then now this sort of regressive left who, you know, well, if anything hurts my feelings, it should be outlawed. And it's like, so we're almost getting fucked from both ends in the worst way, like socio-ideologically, where people are like, my God says that you're not okay, and my feelings say you're not okay, and all of it just leads to censorship.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I know there's this one organization who's like trying to shut down porn entirely, no matter what, but they're disguising it under them like protecting child trafficking and like them, you know, wanting to take care of that issue. And so but that's not what they're going for. They don't actually care about the children. They're a religious organization who just wants to ban porn because God says it's bad.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So I actually butt heads with my friend Eliza Blue on this subject a little bit, because Eliza is a big human trafficking advocate. Shout out to Eliza if you're watching or if you see this. Love her work. But she is one of those people that's like, porn is the biggest problem with human trafficking. And my philosophy about that is it's just like drugs. It's like, dude, if you fucking legalized it, then you would get the human trafficking part would still be illegal, and you'd have a better chance by having some legitimate path to that workplace, or with drugs, having some, you know, legitimized ways to acquire drugs. You could kill that black market. That's my belief. Now, no, not many countries or cultures have tested it to where we know, right? But I have to believe that if we had legalized prostitution in America and we sort of destigmatized sex work, made it readily available, and monetized it as much as possible and normalized it as much as possible, I think you would be able to root out the human trafficking piece. Yeah, and I'm sure she'll debate me on that all day. And you know, as somebody
it's definitely a debate.
And it's somebody who went through that experience, right? She has way more of a firsthand reason to feel the way she does than I do. So it's sort of like, I get it and I respect, even if I disagree, I respect it. And it's sort of one of those things of like, well, I think we should at least try my thing and see if it works.
Just test it out.
Yeah, just listen, normalize it, you know, for a period of time. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, if the numbers aren't better, it's not better. But it's amazing. You look at countries like Portugal who've like legalized drugs, and some of these other places that have, you know, even with like heroin, they have like medical injection sites and things like that. And they haven't had a single heroin death in like years from accidental overdose. So it's like, you can't ignore data like that, where it's like, yeah, we have tested it and we actually find out that less people die from their drug use when we normalize it, regulate it, and whatever. So absolutely, you know, it's so interesting to me how much people think that more government control and oversight is ever a good thing in terms of like liberating these new spaces.
Yeah, no, I know there's a lot of people in the sex work industry who talk about decriminalization instead of legalization. Like there's kind of a difference between the two, right?
Yeah, and with drugs especially as well.
Right. So like legalization means that like, you know, the government can kind of like step in a little bit and kind of, you know, control that to a degree. But, you know, do we really want that kind of extreme, or do we just want decriminalization so we can still control our shit, you know, instead of, you know, being taken over and whatever else.
Yeah, and that's another thing I don't like about the conservative right is they talk about how important the nuclear family is, and I agree, and how important it is to, raise your kids right and have both parents in the home and all that stuff. And those are things I agree with. But then they're like, we have to take the porn off the internet because of our kids. And I go, wait a minute, if you're fucking parenting as well as you say you are, your kids should be able to look at porno and then come to you and go, Dad, what's this? And then you should be able to manage that as a parent. You know
Honestly, what I mean? It's a parenting job. And that's okay. Right. That's a huge thing that I have to fight all the fucking time. Especially since I've joined TikTok for some reason. Apparently, whenever I go live on TikTok or post anything on TikTok, I get all of the angry moms in the fucking comment section.
You should be ashamed of yourself. They say shit like that.
They say shit like, you shouldn't be on this platform. You shouldn't be here. And I'm like, it's not my job to parent your kids. That's your job. Right. Excuse me. You know what I mean? So I have to fight that on the daily. It's absolutely insane. Like...
Well, and it's like, and also, do you have any idea what your kids are stumbling on in every other corner of the internet?
Yeah.
And, it's like, and here's an idea. If you're worried about that, then just don't let them have it. You know what I mean? Seriously. Like, that's also an option. You can also not give your 8-year-old kid a fucking smartphone and wait until they're mature enough to handle the things they can access with a smartphone. And then you can do parenting and have conversations like, yeah, that chick put a fist in her ass. Some people are into that. And you might be into that. We don't know. You won't know for a while.
Right. But no, all these parents want to do these days is put screens in front of their kids to shut them up just so they can do whatever they want to do. I saw that shit all the time when I used to work in retail about like 5 years ago or so.
Ooh, do you have any good retail story? I worked all my professional career was in retail.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you have any fun retail stories or nightmare retail stories?
Well, it was just the fact that like okay, I don't even know how deep I want to go into this, but I don't even know if I'm allowed to say, okay, I worked at a retail store, right? And our target audience, our target market of people who
it was Target, everybody. No,
it was not Target.
I'm kidding. Sue us. No, I'm just kidding.
But our target audience and market of people, it was all Russian moms, right? Okay. So bear with me. Hang in here.
So you were in Glendale, California.
No, but it was only Russian moms, and they would come in with their 8-10 children, right? And every single one had a screen in front of their faces. Either that, or they were running around the store, and the parents just didn't care. And I'm like, okay, what is going on here? Why? First of all, why would you even bring them in the first place if you can't control them like this? And second of all, these kids are less than 5 years old, yet they're on the parent's phone or the parent's tablet, or they have their own phone and tablet. I'm like, what is going on in this day and age? I didn't have a cell phone until I was in 5th grade going into middle school. But these kids,
that's still super young. That's
still super young.
You're still 11 or 12 in that time, and
that's preteen age around. Yeah. But that's still super young.
But that's when you start being more social as a kid, where you're going over other kids' houses or you're doing sleepovers or whatever. So I could see 11, 12, 13. Okay, the kids they're doing after school stuff now or whatever. They should have a phone in case of emergencies or something like that.
Right, exactly. It was always in the case of emergencies.
Yeah, but and I when I was a kid, the cell phone technology was a big ass brick phone or something. So you could barely. There was only T9 texting, and that was it. And I didn't even get one of those until I was 17.
Oh man, I miss T9 texting. Can I just say that?
Really? I never did it. I was like, no, I'm not going to sit here and try to figure out how to make words out of numbers.
Oh yeah. That was the shit back in the day.
I never texted until I got a smartphone with a keyboard on it. I was one of those dinosaurs. Somebody would text me and I would just call them and go, "What are you doing?"
Oh yeah.
We both have Sanyo Sprint phones. Why are you torturing me, trying to make me type?
Right. Oh
my keyboard doesn't light up like you and your Nokia. I can't see the numbers at night.
Yes, exactly. I just find it so funny how back in the day we would have Razors and flip phones and all that shit.
T-Mobile Sidekick.
Yeah, literally. And now they're going back to that. They're like, okay, yeah, let's make a little flip phone, but it's all like one screen now. It's so insane. I'm like, okay, are we just recycling our classic cell phone ideas right now?
Well,
our classic cell phone designs.
I think that's kind of insane. So here's a good example. So I mentioned this to you. You know this about me. I'm straight edge. I don't drink. I don't do any drugs or anything. And again, not that I'm against it. It's just I just don't do it.
And mad respect, by the way, mad respect.
Yeah, but I can sit in a room with people doing lines of coke and smoking pot and drinking, and I'm not like, oh, the temptation. And so I have the discipline to be like, this isn't part of my life. I have no interest in it. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
So that's why I laugh when people are like, I have a problem with my smartphone. The only way I can manage it is like to just get a fucking phone that I can only text and call on. And it's like, dude, you're not fixing your problem. Like you have to have the discipline to take the smartphone and put it down and not touch it. Right. Like,
right. It's all about discipline.
Yeah. I'm one of those people, like if I'm at dinner with somebody and they're annoying me, I'll be like, dude, put that shit on the table. Like, let's fucking actually hang out and talk. Okay.
I hate that. And it seems like it happens more and more in this day and age. And
when
especially
people text or whatever while they're with you.
Yeah. It's like you're constantly on your phone. You're like scrolling through social media, yet I'm trying to have a conversation with you. Like
I'm here. I'm here right now. Excuse me.
Did you want to actually hang out in person? Because hanging out in person requires in-person communication. I know. Wild thought. Yeah. Wild.
Well, and I also think it contributes to how everybody's like on this sliding scale of autism now. And it's like, I don't even know if you're autistic. I just think you're fucking rude. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of cases where people, it's like maybe part of the reason why you're bad in social situations is that nobody ever fucking forced you to learn how to navigate through them. Like I had parents that would not I was a shy kid. They wouldn't allow it. Like I'd go out somewhere, they would go make friends. And they would shove me into a pile of kids. Right. And make me go learn how to be friends with people. And eventually I learned, oh, I'm funny and people like that. So that's how I'll make friends. But it's amazing to me how many parents will just go like, oh, well, he has social anxiety. It's an affliction. So there's nothing we can do about it.
Let's just shelter him. Let's just shelter him because he's got all of these things wrong with him. Like, really?
Yeah, and it's like, and then he's going to start to look around at other people whose parents forced them to develop socially, and he's going to resent them and hate them, and then he's going to take his dad's gun into the school and shoot everybody.
No, seriously.
It's like you have to fight. Like you have to make these kids develop socially, and I do think that's a big part of why parents have been. I think they're doing it now, where they're pushing back against masks, but it took fucking 2 years. You guys should have been pushing back immediately. Like my 5-year-old kid is at the developmental stage where they're learning how to read people's faces and emotions, and you want to handicap them in their ability to learn how to do that? Like that's insane. That's it would literally be like it's like truly stunting someone's growth.
It is
like turning off somebody's hormones through puberty. It's like it's insane. It would,
and they try. The fact that they're trying to do that. Oh my God! Don't even get me started. Like. I don't. Okay, fuck it. We're gonna get into it.
Yeah, no, we can talk about it. I by the way, something I'm also against. Forewarning. I don't think anybody should be fucking with the body chemistry before somebody's frontal cortex is fully developed. And that, by the way, that includes not just hormones but SSRIs as well. Your kid doesn't need to be on antidepressants or Ritalin. How about you channel them into fucking activities? They wanted to put me on Ritalin when I was a kid, because I was super hyperactive. And thank God my parents were like, fuck that noise. No, we'll put him in sports. We'll let him run around and burn his energy. Yeah. We'll give him creative outlets. We'll do these other things. We'll tire him the fuck out, but we're not going to turn his brain off because he's hyper.
Yeah, I was like kind of the exact opposite, but not to me personally. It was my little brother, right? So he's 2 years younger than me, but growing up, like he was diagnosed really early on with ADHD.
Yeah, same thing they said I had.
Right, ADHD. So they put him on medication.
And they're not wrong, by the way, because I'll literally be, if you and I were at lunch right now and I was talking to you, there would be moments in the conversation where I would just stop and go, what the fuck were we just talking about? Because sometimes my brain will just derail mid-conversation.
But is that normal? Because I think it kind of is normal.
Maybe.
I'm sorry. I think it's kind of normal because that happens to me too. Like, how does that not happen to everybody? I don't know.
It's bad when you're a podcaster and a comedian, because there have been times
maybe a little bit.
That's why I have to be in terms of transitions, I have to be really organized. Like, I don't have to have my bits written down word for word, because once I'm in that spot, I can talk through that subject and create on the fly and riff and have fun with it and improvise. But if I don't know where I'm going next after that bit's over, fucking watch out. And anybody who see me perform knows, like, there's times where I'm like, I have no fucking idea what the next bit is, and I'm lost. And that usually happens when I'm working on new stuff, especially.
Right. It takes a while to, get the shit flowing, get the shit flowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I like grew up and I watched my little brother like have to deal with all of those medications and how it like fucked him up. Like, instead of him going out and being social and learning things, he became reclusive. The medication itself fucked with him terribly. Like, he was depressed. He couldn't sleep. Like, it was just so messed up. And like, it really did fuck with him. So growing up, like, he was always that like kind of sheltered, like isolated kind of kid, didn't socialize, didn't do anything. And there were moments where me and the rest of my family, we were like, okay, he could possibly turn into a school shooter, so we need to nip this in the butt. I'm not kidding.
No, I know. This is the funny thing about that to me is trying to stay. If I can, I can wear these. I'm trying to be able to read while I talk to you.
Ooh, glasses gang.
Oh yeah, man. Well, this is funny because these are like vintage Ray-Bans, and sometimes when I put them on, I just look like an old like mobster's grandfather or something. Where I'm just like. I look like young Uncle Junior from The Sopranos, but it's a freaky thing with that kind of thing. I just love the idea that you never hear about that. Like, when there's a school shooting, you always hear like, none of us ever saw it coming. You never hear parents who are like, we've talked about this for like the last 5 years. We kind of knew this was coming. Yeah,
no, seriously. So like, if that were to ever happen, it would be national news. We would all be like, yeah, we saw this coming from like 10 years ago. Like, but no, like, when we saw the signs though, we did everything we could to try to reverse all of it. You know what I mean? And to try to help him out. So it's like, it's either one or the other. It's either you neglect the child who needs help, or, you team together and actually act like a fucking family and do the shit that needs to be done.
There's a great movie about that subject called We Need to Talk About Kevin. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh my God, dude! You gotta watch this movie. It's Tilda Swinton, and I can't remember who plays her husband, but Ezra Miller, the kid who played the Flash that everybody loves, plays the son Kevin. And it basically, it's I don't want to spoil it, but it's basically a kid who's involved in some kind of like tragedy, and you don't know what it is, so I don't want to spoil it. But it basically goes back. It's sort of like timeline shifts. And it keeps going back to moments in his childhood when the mother was like, there's something wrong with my kid. And people were either gaslighting her, or she was in personal denial or whatever. And it shows you all these moments where as a parent, she should have been like, no, I've got to do, like, he needs to be institutionalized. He needs to be. And there's all these moments throughout his life where there were plenty of red flags that could have avoided the thing you find out happens at the end. So it's like, it starts when it happens at the beginning of the movie, and you see kind of the fallout, and it bounces back and forth between how people are treating her after the tragedy. So the whole fucking neighborhood hates her, and she's like a leper because her son did this thing. And then, it flashes back to all the moments where she ignored that it was coming. And everyone tried to rationalize it like, oh, well, kids are like that sometimes, or, maybe he's just different, or maybe he's just, and he was like, literally had like serial killer red flags of like hurting animals and like beating up his sister and just doing things that you, at some point you have to go up. I need to hand this over to a professional or involve a professional on a psychological level, and not just throw him on medications, Right. So it was kind of it's an incredible movie, and no one I don't think it ever got touched with any kind of awards or recognition because of the subject matter being so, so again, the fact that people were so uncomfortable with the subject matter to where it didn't get nominated for anything tells you how fucking important that movie is.
Honestly, yeah. That's why I'm like a huge advocate of like, see something, say something.
Yeah.
Like if there are signs, you need to address that. And if you don't, you're either enabling this bad behavior or, shit's going to go down the line and it's going to be partially your fault. Like if you didn't step in when you needed to.
How do you, I'll ask you a question on that note. How do you feel then about like women who are victims of like a sex crime or sexual abuse or rape who don't report their the perpetrator, like in the Harvey Weinstein instance when all these women came out and said, oh no, I was sexually assaulted 20 years ago, I just didn't say anything. What are your thoughts on that?
See, that one's really, really tough, especially with the...
You like how I volleyed it to you instead of saying what I think? I'm learning.
That one's really, really
As
tough,
a man, I'm not allowed, so by all means, take this one.
Well, I definitely want to hear your opinion too, but yeah, that one's really tough. It's like, it's one of those things where, most of the time when people do speak out about instances like that, like sexual assault cases and stuff like that, most of the time nobody either believes them or there's not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence to do anything, like, especially with the police, like if you don't have enough evidence, what are they going to do? Yeah. Kind of a thing. So at that point, most of the time, especially if it was like really, really traumatic as well, if you do go through the process of trying to tell somebody, oftentimes all it does is just trigger you traumatically, right?
And then nothing ever comes out of it.
It was like basically putting yourself through, like living through that experience time and time again for nothing good to happen. So I get the people who don't like talk about it and don't like want to, say anything. I totally get that. But at the same time, like you have to be doing something to heal yourself, right? Like I'm one of those people who like, I can't stay in the victim mentality forever. So it's like,
that's good.
Yeah, it's like, there has to be a point where you do have to move on and you do have to like learn from it and realize, yes, it was not my fault. And yes, I did not deserve it, but I'm not a victim in my life. Like I can, I do have control over my life, even though something very, very traumatic happened to me.
Yeah, so, I think that's a great mindset. First of all,
right.
And most of the I've been lucky to where most of the women in my life, my sisters growing up, my aunts, my mom, my brother and sister's mom, because I only have half siblings. I'm the only kid from my two parents. But I was lucky where I grew up with that. And it's funny because if I make jokes or critical of women on the internet, people go, "You're an incel misogynist." It's like, no, I grew up around a lot of tough, bad bit women, like real fucking tough, handle their shit women. And so, like I'm hard on the women I meet in my life because that's the standard that was set for me, was like, no, a woman not an excuse. And for anything. And so that's a pretty tough mindset to have, but it also shaped me to where then I enter the world and I see people, who are kind of stuck in that perpetual mindset of victimhood. And I'm just like, that hurts you. Like, that's the other thing that I have a problem with, the concept of like systemic racism. And I go, who does it help to wake your black son or daughter up every day and tell them that there's a limitation on what they can accomplish in the world because the world is bad and out to get them and it's wrong? And it's like, all you're doing is setting somebody up to believe that. And then even if they never encounter that in their life, if they're lucky, they're still carrying a mindset that they didn't need to have. And so I just think there's nothing productive about forcing people into that victimhood mindset. And because if you actually are the victim of something, it's hard to get out of it. I agree with you. It could be traumatizing, could be difficult. But I do think the other thing is I've always found in times where I go through something traumatic or life-changing in a negative way, the best thing you can do is to put your energy and time into other people, whether it's volunteering, even investing time in helping your friends with their business or with their stuff they're going through in their personal life. Like, acts of selflessness, I have found, are always the best way to pull me out of a funk or feeling shitty, because exposing yourself to what other people are going through can do two things. It can make you feel better about what you're experiencing and by comparison and say, well, my problems aren't that bad. Or it can make you feel valuable in a way where you go, wow, I'm able to help people in a way that I didn't know I could. And so I'm building some sense of self-worth and self-value through that. And then that can help you build the bravery to confront the things that are traumatizing and are hard for you. I think from a pure perspective of, you know, what do I think about women not reporting? I just don't know how we'll ever change it if they don't. You know what I mean? And so I for me, it's like, yeah, it's tough. I acknowledge it's tough. I acknowledge it's traumatic, but I also don't think I know that every time I've grown from something, it comes from confronting it, not avoiding it. And so I think it's hard, but I think it's necessary.
Yeah, I personally think you shouldn't avoid like anything in your life. You know what I mean? Like if something happens, you should definitely address it, go through it, especially if it's traumatic and if it really does like hurt you on the inside. I'm all about, you know, surrendering to that, you know, like,
and comedy is a big part of that, right? Like getting people to laugh at horrible shit, I think is a big part of going through that. Like I'll never forget, I got into a huge Twitter back and forth in 2014 with the creator of SVU. And I was in a thread with a bunch of other comedians, and we were just talking about the worst rape jokes we had ever heard at comedy shows. And we were making each other laugh. Like I had like 700 Twitter followers at the time. I was nobody. And and we were like, I heard that, like, this dude did this one. I heard this one. And we were all laughing like, God, these are fucking terrible. And the a bunch of women from blogs and stuff got into it. We're like, look at these disgusting men, you know, talking about this shit, and they're loving it. And then it got bubbled all the way up to the creator of Law and Order SVU. And he was like, you guys should be fucking ashamed of yourselves. And then I replied to him and said, you're right. We shouldn't joke about rape. We should film reenactments of it and put it on national television every fucking night for 30 years. Right?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, you're judging my art and saying our jokes are traumatic. You're fucking filming rape porn and putting it on television. That's traumatic for some women too. And even my mom was like, even my mother was like, I've had sexual trauma in my past. I would much rather go to a comedy club and listen to you joke about rape than watch a fucking Law and Order show where I got to watch it happen to another girl, you know?
100%.
And so it's amazing to me the cognitive dissonance that people have about, like, allow people to decide how they process their fucking trauma. Don't tell me making jokes about it is inappropriate, because I've had people come up to me after a show and go, dude, like that joke you made about that made me feel better because I'm going through that, or I just went through that, or whatever it is, right? Whether it's something really light, like it's light. It could be something as light as like trying to lose weight, or as heavy as, you know, my fucking wife died and I'm trying to figure out how to move on with my life. So, you know, that's what I think comedians can do. I don't think they all have to think or do their material that way, but comedians have the ability to do that. And so, you know, it's just another option for a way for people to kind of heal and get through trauma.
And they do say laughter is like the best medicine, right? So seriously, so many people use that and like they rely on that to get by. So why would we knock people for their coping mechanisms? Like, come on.
Yeah, totally.
As long as it's not harming anybody, then who gives a shit? That's
the same mentality with drugs. If doing heroin helps you forget the fact that your entire family died in a house fire, then who am I to tell you you're not allowed to do that? You know what I mean? Like,
you're not hurting anybody. As long as you're not trying to kill yourself, then you're not harming yourself.
I don't even have a problem.
Know what I mean?
I don't even have a problem with that. I'm definitely like, if people want to choose to take their own life, like, first of all, we can't stop them. No, second of all,
we can't.
We could try, I guess, but I also think they should have the freedom to do that. It's anyone else. Yeah, I just don't think you're allowed to harm anyone else. But do whatever the fuck you want with your life, right?
And if you really want to die, I'm not going to stop you.
Listen, that person might think that there's a better world in life waiting for them beyond whatever we are going through right now. So who am I to tell that person that what they believe is wrong, or that their pain is not, you know, severe enough for them to take such a drastic measure? Like, I'll share this very personal story. My brother died almost 2 years ago now. He was 43. He had a drinking problem most of his life. He had a real tough upbringing, bounced from home to home, parent to parent, had some abuse in his childhood as well, all kinds, mental, physical, you name it, went through all of it, right? Had a real tough life and always used alcohol to get through it. Got injured at work, and he was injured a lot. He got into a lot of car accidents from drunk driving. He rode motorcycles. He got into accidents from drunk riding. But he had a really devastating accident at work where he had just recovered from an accident. They dropped a fucking anvil or something on it. Not an anvil. What is this? Acme cartoons. But they dropped like a lift or a car. So dropped an anvil on his head. He was chasing the coyote.
Oh, shit.
So they dropped something on his foot, crushed his foot. He was in horrendous pain, had to have like full reconstructive surgery. Doctor gives, knowing he has a history of drinking and a bad liver, doctor prescribes him unnecessarily strong opioid medication. He gets addicted to it. It fucking in less than 5 years of being on these medications before he went to rehab to get off them, the doctors later towards his life said that he had the liver of like an 80-year-old man at 42, 43 years old. And like an 80-year-old day drinking alcoholic man, not just a regular 80-year-old man, but like somebody who literally has been an alcoholic their entire life. And so anyway, we go through COVID. He has some real bad health problems, gets them sorted out. We feel like he's on the track to recovery. My mom comes out to visit us here in LA. And like a month or two later, he died. And when you want to talk about paranormal stuff, I was asleep on the couch. My mom was over here working at my desk for school and stuff. She's now a licensed treatment. What's the word? Treat like a recovery coach. So she helps coach people through addiction recovery. She's recovery for many years, over 30. And so that she wanted to dedicate her life to trying to help people get sober and everything else. And, everyone in my family has battled addiction in some way. So that was a big part of why I chose to just not go down that road as a kid. I grew up around a bunch of people who the ceiling was right over their head in terms of where they were going to go in their life. And I felt like drugs and alcohol played a big part in that. So as a kid, I was just like, yeah, probably if I want to do all these crazy, wild things with my life, that probably can't be a part of it. Right. So anyway, we find out he has a hernia, and that's what's causing all this fluid buildup in his stomach. They give him surgery. He's recovering. Seems like he's on the right track. Dies a couple months later, unexpectedly. The phone rings. I'm all over the board on this story. Sorry. Phone rings. My mom's over here at the desk. I'm on the couch. Literally, the second the phone rang, I knew what it was. And people can think what they want about this, but I literally feel like his spirit came and touched me and was like, "You're about to get this news. Be prepared to be strong for our mom because I'm here and this is what happened." Like I literally feel like he woke me from that nap. I just got a wave of chills throughout my body as you said that. I'm dead serious. And it was like knowing. It was like knowing. It would be like if you knew the ending of Sixth Sense before you watched it. You know what I mean? Like it was literally she getting right. My brother is dead. I knew before she answered the phone what the call was. And I can tell you, of all the things you go through in your life, watching your parent lose a child, there's nothing fucking like it. There's nothing worse than it. And having to like be the sibling of that child and watch them go through it, it is devastating, right? So she goes out, she checks everything out. What they had determined was he didn't stop drinking as he was advised to. And at one point, his blood became so toxic in his sleep that he just died in his sleep. And my mom at one point just looked at me, had this very serious thing. It was like, I'm always going to wonder if he did it on purpose, and I say, Mom, like if he did, it was because he was in pain and he was done. And that was his choice. He was tired of living through pain, tired of being here, tired of experiencing this. Respect his choice. The way the choice kind of made a long time ago by continuously, rebuking her attempts to help him. Right. So like, it is that thing of like letting go. You have to understand that people are going to make their own choices and you have to respect that. And I tried to paint it to her in a way of like, there's something beautiful about that. There's something beautiful about him going, I'm done. I'm done with this version of who we are. And my mom's religious or spiritual and said, if you really have faith that there's something waiting for us beyond this life, then put your faith and trust into that and know that he's in a better place. Absolutely. Especially him going in his sleep as well. Like that's the most peaceful way to go. You know what I mean? Like if that really was his choice, that was the best possible choice, you know? Yeah. Oh my God. So, but it's one of those things of like, I don't know. I think there can be as much beauty in death if we choose to look at it the right way. Obviously, when like somebody else makes that choice for someone, that's fucking tragic and horrible. But, you know, I think there can be, I think we kind of have to destigmatize this idea of like, you know, if a guy's in horrible pain with cancer and everything and he chooses to let him die, like there's something really fucking ballsy about it, but also kind of beautiful about that faith going, you know, let me go into the next chapter.
Right. Right. You are the master of your fate. You know what they say.
Yeah. I mean, you're the only one who can kind of decide that you're ready to make that transition into whatever the next, you know, whatever the next phase is. And I, you know, in those moments, I gotta feel like there's something. I've seen enough, and we'll get into supernatural stuff now, but I've seen enough. Woo. I've seen enough kind of stuff like that in my life, or experienced enough stuff like that in my life where I know that just waking up as the physical hunks of meat we are every day is not the end of our existence. I just have seen enough and experienced enough to believe that, you know, we're out there more than this or beyond just our physical form.
Right. The way that I like to think about it is like, okay. I like to think about it like this, right? It's very, very simple, very basic, but it holds up, right? Like, you know, one of the main laws of energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I know that.
So, yeah. So like, it's the same principle. Like we are an energetic being. We do have, you know, energy inside of us. We are made up of energy, you know, so that's what our soul is. So when our vessel dies and decays, you know, the energy has to transfer somewhere else. Where that's up to, you know, debate. I think it's a very interesting thing. I think there's multiple things you can do after that, but yeah, it's all just energy transfer.
Well, and nobody has ever been able to explain scientifically what is if they haven't seen it. So if somebody's watching this and they go, I got a fucking article, send it to me. But
right.
No one has been able to come up with a scientific explanation that I've seen for the 21 grams of weight that the body loses at the moment it dies. So like, I'm not talking about an evacuation of bowels or pissing or none of that.
No.
The human body loses 21 grams of weight at the moment of death. What is that? Is that our soul? To your point, is it energy? Is it what powers our body? You know, so, and
that's
where does that go?
Oh my God, that's so interesting. Cause they also, I think I've like read an article or something like that where they've like taken pictures of people like the moments they're dying, right? And they've seen like things surrounding their body it's not like anything physical. It looks like fucking energy leaving. So yeah, I think that lines up with losing the 21 grams. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah. And just that of like, I've had moments in my life where I have a lot of deja vus. Like I'll find myself in a scenario and I'll go, I dreamed this, or I've seen this before, or whatever. Do you have that?
Honestly, I don't really get like deja vu necessarily, but I don't know. I feel like if I do have any sort of gift, I just know how to like communicate with outside entities that aren't of this physical realm. So that's something entirely different. I don't really have like deja vu or any visions. I don't really get visions or anything like that. And I only recently just started dreaming again, so I can't really tell if I have any like dream visions of like the future or anything like that. I
guess my point is I don't feel like I'm clairvoyant in any way whatsoever. So when I had that moment of feeling like he woke me up from my nap, I feel like that was his energy. That was wherever he went. Not I'm just like, I do that with everybody. It's like, no.
Yeah, no. When things like that happen,
touching me. Yeah.
Yes. When things like that happen, that's how you know, right? So yeah, especially if it's like a one-off thing and you already knew somehow the phone call was going to be that, it's that you can't explain it, right? It doesn't make any like logical sense. It's just a fucking knowing, right?
Yeah.
It's just a knowing.
Yeah, and it's really hard to describe to people, but And by the way, like, I'll talk to some people and they go, that wasn't your brother picking you up, that was God. He was preparing you to support your mother through that time or whatever, and whatever people want to call it. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't indigestion. It wasn't the fucking lunch I ate that was like, Bert, your brother's dead. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no.
So it was this very weird thing. And I'll tell you, my father said the exact same thing about sleeping in my grandparents' house with my mom when they were like newlyweds or had been newly married. Right. He stayed there, and she had a brother who looked a lot like me. His name was Jimmy. My middle name is James after him. But she had a brother who died shortly after coming home from the service, very young, 23, car accident, and passed away. And my dad was like, we slept in his room, and I swear to God, he was in that room. And what's crazy, now you want to talk about wild. I don't know if I was conceived on that trip or around that time, but if you look at pictures of my Uncle Jimmy when he was my age, you'd think they were pictures of me dressed up like it's the 70s. And guess what he wanted to do as a career when he got out of the service?
Do you want to be a comedian? Like legit?
He wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh my God.
He had just had a conversation with my mom and his dad about wanting to be a stand-up comedian. And they were just like, okay, well, you're young, like, you're out of the service, so it's whatever you want to do. He literally died shortly thereafter. And I was born, I don't know how many years after that, but it wasn't like 20 years later. I think it was within 10 years of his death that I was born.
Yeah.
And he has a freckle on his nose that's exactly like the freckle grouping on my nose. Like, you can hold pictures of side by side, and our noses are exactly the same.
Right. Oh,
it's my God. It's so fucking creepy.
What do you think about like the theory that you can like reincarnate then? Like, what if you were a reincarnation of him?
Yeah, it's kind of gross that he chose to go through his own sister's pussy to come back to life. I mean, that's a little bit of a weird choice, but okay. Okay,
well, think about it though. Think about it. Okay, we can get into this. So
I got to try to make it a little funny.
Right. But no, like, okay, so if we are like all energy, if we are all souls, like energetic things out in the world, in the universe, in space, whatever the fuck you want to imagine, if we are like that. And okay, I personally believe in like soul teams and like ancestors, angels, whatever the fuck.
Well, so, we have to get into this because this is another part of your thing. You have, connecting with, you have spiritual guidebooks on your site that people can get, connecting with spirit, connecting with elements. So this kind of like sets it up perfectly for us to talk about this.
Yes, and I'll get into that. But it's like the same kind of thing where like if a soul does like want to finish carrying out a mission that they didn't get to finish the like one of the first times or the last time they were incarnated, they can go back, right? And what better way to do that than by staying with the same energy type that you were with before? Like, I don't know if you believe in like maybe soul family or like anything like that, but it's definitely
or maybe that's the only way it can transfer, right? Like maybe that's how it works. Like, we don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe there needs to be some genetic connection to, be able to
do it.
Yeah.
That would be very, very interesting.
It's so funny. I feel like, did I just validate all of your theories by saying that?
I mean, it's definitely very interesting. And I don't think I've ever heard of, I've heard of stories like on the news of stuff like that, but not like genetically like that, I know there's this one story of like this kid and he like reincarnated, I guess, or whatever. And he was like 5 years old and he was telling people, like he was telling his parents, yeah, I was like a Navy pilot or, some sort of like military pilot in my past life. This is what I did, this. And they could like fact check it. And it was accurate. Like everything lined up. And it's like, how did this 5-year-old know this? Mm-hmm. Like, how does that make any sense? Right. So I don't know if it's like, I think it definitely is a very good possibility of like being genetic for sure, but I think it can happen anyway. But if you really want to carry out a mission specifically with the team and with like the energy type that you love and like want to like spend life with, I think you can definitely do that. So that's so fucking trippy.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
trippy.
it's a weird thing to kind of find out, and then, to feel this, it's interesting because a lot of people will ask me like what drives me. Right. And generally they ask me that because they think I'm fucking up. Like they'll just be like, it's not like they're inspired by me. They're just literally like, dude, you're not backing down on this thing. And you're like fucking up your career and you're doing this. And it's like, I feel so driven to stand by what I believe about, comedy and free speech and artistic expression. I can't explain to anyone who doesn't feel the same way. It's like, it's genuine passion. It's like real passion for the work. And it's like, it is like a religion for me. This idea that like art should be free to be whatever the fucking creator wants it to be. And
absolutely.
And I mean that for everything, not just stand up for filmmaking. Like I don't give a fuck if a movie offends you. Sometimes movies need to offend you to address the thing it's trying to address. And sometimes offending people is the best way to get them to look at themselves or the subject in a different light.
Like, how else are we supposed to learn as people and grow as people if we don't have opposing views? You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, and also, you should also have a lot of shitty views out there to reinforce the good ones. Why not?
Like if somebody has if somebody has a terrible take on something, let them say it. It will just reinforce the good take. People will then look at the good take and go, this is the right, we shouldn't be doing this, right? Like that's why it's like when people refer to things as hate speech, you go, let them have their hate speech. Like
fuck people,
well, the problem is if you make it sexy by outlawing it, you're gonna actually drive people to it. It's like the fucking concept of the forbidden fruit.
It is,
so it's like when you sort of outlaw things and make them forbidden, you actually give them an appeal that maybe they don't have just on their own based on merit. So I do think that's how crazy sort of fringe extremist ideas grow. They only grow when you force them into the shadows and people go, oh, we have to have our little club to talk about this. Versus if you let them talk about it in the open and let them be ridiculed for how fucking terrible their ideas are, they won't gain any momentum.
It's so true. I also think that a lot of the time
like
people don't understand
little people, we don't know what they're doing. They're all relegated into their huts and their little communities, and they could be plotting some shit.
We have no idea.
We have no idea.
They probably are.
They're not just making cookies in there, dude. Some shit's going down, okay?
For all we know, they're trying to overthrow us all.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll never know.
You don't know what they could be some kind of religious extremist. We have no idea. You know why? Because we don't invite them to shit.
Seriously, I don't think I've been to an event with somebody that short ever in my life.
You can't. Yeah, I
don't think I have.
You got to go to their. You got to go to their events. You got to go to their. They have specific little people events.
They do.
Hotels. And then sometimes the hotel, like, we can't have you guys here. Your shit's too fringe. People are gonna fucking stare. It's gonna be a problem. And then they're like, oh, we got kicked out. We got kicked out of this one. We gotta go find it. They're just like the goddamn Proud Boys, right? So that's what I'm saying. If you force them to have their tiny little, conventions, and that tiny's it's not a slam on their height. It's about the size of their base. If you force them into their little tree huts and they can only meet there, then you're going to build a lot of resentment.
Honestly, yeah. That's why I'm so glad they started having like sex work conventions, and like giving out awards and shit. I'm like, thank God we can at least have that. We may not be accepted on the internet, besides on Orange YouTube, but at least we have our conventions that we can go to.
The closest I ever got to going to AVN, by the way, was back when I worked for Sean John. I went out there. I had a store in Vegas, and I went out there to visit the store in Vegas. But I had this horrific flu. This was like 2012, 2013, and I bought a juicer. I bought a juicer like at the fucking Macy's or something in the mall. and just took the juicer back to my hotel room and was like, I'm going to beat this thing and just do a juice cleanse while I'm stuck in the hotel. And it just so happened to coincide with AVN. And so literally I'm sitting, now this is what's hilarious about this story. So literally I'm in my room and I just hear fucking orgies blasting in both rooms on each side of me, right?
Left, right, below, above.
I'm not, everywhere. When I'm walking through the casino to go get a bite, like to get a bite of something, like when the juice is not doing it or whatever. Or I think I even went down to like try to go gamble for a little bit just to get out of the room. And I'm seeing like porn stars everywhere and actors everywhere and musicians everywhere. So then the hilarious thing is I don't even realize that they're listening to me juice in my room. So I remember at one point, and the sound of a high-end Breville juicer is like me, like it's pretty loud. I literally remember walking out of the hotel room one point, and the couple in the room next to me walking out at the same time, and they look over at me and they go, "You guys are fucking with the power tools in there, huh?"
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. Man, we're fucking getting down hard. I was like, no, it's a juice. I was like, it's a juice. It's like, it's a juicer. I have the flu. And it's like, dude, it's AV, and you don't have to fucking lie. We're all doing crazy shit.
Yeah, you don't have to hide your heavy duty Hitachi, okay?
Right, yeah, exactly. They just think I'm in there on a fucking Sibian just going to town.
Yeah,
and I'm just like puking my guts out trying to drink carrot. There's just my garbage can is just filled with pulp. You know what I mean? And they're just like, oh, this guy's freaky as shit. At the time I had always stayed at Hard Rock when I went out there, and then that just happened to be where they had AVN that year. And so it's like literally I'd still had to try to tough it out and go to work. And I remember walking up to I would always park on the top deck of the parking garage just so that my car was in the sunlight. And so I also was just sort of the mindset of if it's sort of out where everyone can see it, nobody will fuck with your car. So I went up top there and literally like Sasha Grey is shooting something on the hood of like a vintage muscle car as I walk up top, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think I was going to see Sasha Grey getting fucked on my way to work today, but when in Vegas.
When in Vegas, that's right.
I was just like, God damn. Yeah, so it was just one of those things of like, it was fun though. It was fun. It was the energy was good, and just the people were happy, and it was a good time. At that time I was like, God, I should probably like call one of my friends who's like in this space or knows all these dudes and chicks and get fucking tickets and go to the awards. Yeah, I can't remember who was hosting. I think Dave Attell was hosting that year. I can't remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have to look. I think it was actually 2012 AVN Awards. Let me see. Damn. Have you ever gone to anything like that?
No, honestly, I really, really want to so fucking bad. Like, I almost went to Exotica one year because they had a Portland date, and that's where I'm at. But I didn't end up making it for some reason. I don't really remember what happened.
I was right. It was January 21st, 2012, hosted by Dave Attell, Brie Olson, and Sunny Leone. Yeah, at the Joint Hard Rock Hotel. That was it.
Yeah, that was it. Oh my God. Dude, I would love it to get into one of those VIP parties, though. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh, I'm sure they were a fucking blast.
Oh yeah. Fuck it. Why not? Why not have an orgy? At least once in your life, right? Might as well be at AVN VIP parties.
That's why I always laugh when I'll make like a joke about gay guys and someone will go, "You can't make that joke. You're not gay." And I go, honestly, I don't even fucking know. You know what I mean? Like nobody's ever held me at dick point. I don't know what I would do under that stress and duress. We never really know.
A mouth is a mouth.
Yeah. And also, is it that fucking? It couldn't possibly be that bad.
No.
Yeah, it's just gay. It's like it literally is like what George Carlin said in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He's like, oh, what are you? He's like trying to tell Jay and Silent Bob they have to suck dick to get down the road. And they're like, we're not gay. And he's like, don't be so suburban, gay, straight. It's all the same.
Honestly, though.
You're just stuffing stuff into stuff. I'll tell you what. for me, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, it's so much more about that person's personality than anything else. Like, it's gotten to the point now where it's like, I'm not even into this. And by the way, all my friends are going to call me fucking gay for saying this, but it's the truth. A chick's energy for me is so much more important than even her physical characteristics. Like,
no,
and
it's true.
And you can feel that on someone, right? Like, you can feel that coming off of a person. You can just feel that in how they carry themselves. And so, you know, you could never sort of get a fix on what I'm into by looking through porn, because so much of it is like, if I see something that looks and feels fake, it's not interesting to me. If I look at something that feels real and authentic, like you're really seeing that person for who they are or what they're really into, then that's what I'm into. So,
and there's actually a sexuality for that. They made a term for that. I don't know if it might be demisexual.
Ooh,
it might
like
not be.
Nice.
It might be. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right term, but there is a term for that.
Oh yeah, well, that's with an emotional bond with a person.
Okay, yeah.
So it's sort of like a cross between that and sapiosexual, which is when you're attracted to someone's actual sort of intelligence.
Yes.
So it's almost like a blend of those two things. But it's like, dude, you could sit me across from the hottest woman in the world, and if she fucking sucks as a human being, I literally would not be able to be sexually aroused.
Right.
Like, I'd be like,
dude,
real. Good luck. You're gonna have to inject it with something because it ain't gonna pop up. She's an awful person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
the same way. Totally. Dude, it's like we either vibe on that level and then can go from there, or if we don't, we just don't. I don't care how hot you are. I don't care how big your dick is. Like, if it doesn't vibe, it doesn't vibe. Sorry.
I am going to isolate that clip where you go, I don't care how big your dick is, just so that I have it in case it ever comes up with anyone. I'll just go, nope, they don't care. Please. See? They're lying. You're lying.
I want to send that out to people.
I used to tour with a comedian, or I shouldn't say tour. We did like 3 shows together, me and a guy named Lepowski. And Ray has gone super religious now, which is good for him. He does mission work in LA. He's literally trying to help the homeless every day. He's truly doing the Lord's work, right? But before that, Ray was a fucking foul-mouthed, insane comedian who used to do all the black rooms with me when I first started in 2007 and 2008. And Ray and he was a white guy who did black rooms. I was a white guy who did black rooms. So we would go do shows together. And the whole concept was just black people being shocked at what we were willing to talk about as white dudes.
Oh my God, yes.
Ray had this fucking bit, dude, that was on, he did it on Bad Boys, a comedy, and he did it on White Boys in the Hood, which was on Showtime. And he had this bit where he goes, you know, and he has this thick Polish Chicago accent. So he's like, guys, you know, we have what we have, right? Like, we're born with what we're born with. We can't do nothing about it. All right. He's like, no guy's responsible for what he has. That's what God gave him. But every woman in here is responsible for the size of her pussy. And he would just go off.
Oh my God.
And it was so fucking funny, dude. And women would get so mad at him, and men would just be dying. And he would just go through, you know, all the reasons why it's their fault and it's not guys' fault. It was really, really fucking funny.
Oh my God. That's great.
Yeah.
It really trips me out, though. The people who literally think that, like, a pussy can just be too loose.
Right.
Like the people who genuinely think that, like, oh yeah, her pussy's just too loose, you know, she just gets around too much. I'm like, what is the mentality? Where's the logic here? I'm sorry, what? It blows my mind. I'm sorry. We give
like it's a
fucking things.
Like it's a belt on a car that has too much mileage.
I know. I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Maybe you're just not getting the pussy wet enough. Okay. Maybe that's a you problem.
Yeah, that's probably the case in most situations.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it is kind of weird. It is a weird thing. And also there is no correlation, because one of the most loose, sexually promiscuous women, loose, I use that term.
Right.
But one of the most sexually promiscuous chicks I was ever with was like one of the tightest. Like, yeah. And she had talked about fucking dudes that, she didn't talk about their dicks, but I can tell you by looking at them, like, these guys' dicks were the size of my whole body. Like, one of the dudes she fucked is the hockey player Zdeno Chara.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it was back when he was single before he had a wife and kids. So please don't come after me if you're a Zdeno Chara fan and you're like, he has a family. But anyway, this girl's like 5 foot tall and like 90 pounds. Like, and of course, I should definitely say we went to high school together, so she's my age. So calm the fuck down. But anyway,
before y'all get it twisted.
Yeah, before you're like, was she 5 foot tall and 90 pounds because she's 7? No.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, she's of age, but this guy is 6'9". Okay. Right. Let me look it up so I don't get it wrong. Zdeno Chara. I'm pretty sure he's 6'9", 256 pounds, Slovakian hockey player. I guarantee you this guy's dick is as big as my fucking forearm. Okay. And this is a tiny, and like literally, I'm like, first of all, how are you not dead? You know what I mean?
Honestly.
Like, that guy is enormous. And I was like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it because you're here to tell the tale. It's like, like one of those fishing stories where you're like, I don't, the fish is too big. I just don't believe it.
Right.
But if she's telling the truth, if she's telling the truth, it had no effect on her vagina. Because even when I stuck my Irish shit in there, it was tight and hard for me too. And I was just like, oh, this is unpleasant. You know, like is this what guys with big dicks go through all the time? No, thank you. It's like trying to trying to pack way too many clothes into a carry-on.
Right. There's only so far I can fucking zip before, something's got to give.
Yeah, I just feel like somebody was standing over my shoulder while I was trying to stuff a suitcase into the overhead. Guys, like, that's not going to go in there. I don't care how many times you lick it or try to open up the thing again. It's not going in.
The dimensions are wrong.
Yeah, dude. It's just
my God.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. But it's like, yeah, there's no, and by the way, same thing with women having kids. There's no correlation between that. Yes, they just love to fucking say stupid shit like that. It is amazing how so he didn't marry his wife until 2007, so it was before that, let's say. Yeah. He ain't home wrecking, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it was before. Just so everyone know, just so you know, Tatiana Biskupikova. It was before that. So don't send people to murder me for don't kill the messenger. Right. Most likely. When did the Bruins win the cup? I have no clue. Let's assume it was before that. Hopefully, probably. I don't know shit. Let's just say that those dates don't necessarily line up favorably. But anyway, yes, before you guys were married, don't research that, the timeline. Listen, a lot of wild shit happens at those Stanley Cup parties, let's just say. But it was like fun. Yeah. I grew up wanting to be an ice hockey player. I played goalie. That was the original reason I moved to Minnesota before I got into bands and stuff. If you were like, you can drink out of the Stanley Cup, but it's the entire team's cum, I would be like, ooh, talk about, I don't know. Not a lot of people get to drink out of that cup. That reminds me of the very first porno I ever watched in my life. Oh, nice. Do you guys want to know? Yeah. Hold on. Well, no, let's save it for the bonus show. We'll save it for the bonus show. Yeah, we'll get into this in the bonus show. Before we get out of here, let's plug your stuff. Le0babe.com. People can check you out there. Yes. And they can get all of your social links, get all your stuff you're selling. They can go find you on, let me see what socials you got up. I've got everything. Le0babe Twitter, OnlyFans, everywhere. And you have safer work stuff too, if people want to follow you outside of your adult stuff too. So if you're not into adult stuff, I do Twitch streaming. I do tarot readings and stuff on there. So if you guys are into spiritual shit, or if you want to hang out with me on Twitch, if you like metal music, we do Metal Mondays on Twitch. So I know we didn't even talk about that, but that's something else we have in common. So we'll talk about the first porno you ever saw and the best metal concert you've ever been to in the bonus show. Guys, if you're watching on Twitter, you want to see the rest of this, go over to Rockfin. Otherwise, you can wait and catch the bonus show and the full episodes on Locals as well. So you can go to rockfin.com and check out the rest of this episode. Otherwise, you can get the Talking Shit bonus show that we're about to jump into on Locals when the episode comes out on Monday. Woo! Le0babe, thanks for joining for the show. Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.